This is a new pattern I just finished. I'm so happy to finally have finished it. It's taken me a lot longer to finish this pattern than normal, but I have some trouble with some pain in my right hand, so I can't stitch as much as I would like. I've actually taken about 2 or 3 weeks where I have done very, very little of any hand stitching. And then the other day when I was working on this, and it was just, I think, this section here in the middle that I still needed to stitch. And it didn't take that long, but I just felt so relaxed, so happy. Maybe that's the word. Because I just sat there for a little while, working with my hands, pulling thread through fabric. But yeah, I felt so good afterwards. So I think I'm going to call this pattern Paisley Mandala, because it's sort of a mandala design with little paisley designs. All the colors in the pattern are DMC variegated threads, so like these ones, where you get the wonderful color changes. I really love how they work together. It makes me happy to use so many happy colors. It's always fun for me to see how the pattern that I draw, either in my sketchbook or on the computer, how it changes once I start stitching it. Here's the pattern as I had drawn it on the computer. This is slightly smaller, but it's the same one I started with. And for example, this middle thing here, flower or whatever you want to call it, that is now made into 8 segments, because I could not figure out what color to do this middle bit, because all the other ones had, the paisleys had each their individual color. So I was wondering how to stitch this. Should I use one of the 8 colors, different variegated, maybe a solid color, and maybe if I used a 9th color here, maybe I would use that on these sections here. In the end, it just made more sense to split it up into 8 petals and use the same colors, and then use the colors in between the paisleys as well. But in between the paisleys I have moved the colors over so that they're not right next to their paisley color. So here I've moved the purple to between the pink and the red pink. And the pink is between the red pink and the orange. Another thing that changed in the pattern are these circles. I think originally I thought I would do satin stitch, but partly because I needed to cut down on the amount of stitching, and partly because I wanted more sort of star shapes in the pattern. They then turn into stars as well. Sometimes a pattern pretty much the same as I have drawn it and as I have stitched it, but not always, as you can see. And I always find that very interesting to see how making the thing and not just having it in my head, how that changes the look of it. One thing I did differently with this pattern compared to most other patterns that I stitch is that I use this Frixion pen, fine liner. And this works so that you may have seen different types of this pen, but you draw on paper and then there's an eraser that in theory removes the pen with the application of the heat of the friction of the eraser against the paper, and you can see it has sort of disappeared. The same thing works on fabric, only you don't use the eraser, you use the iron. However, it doesn't disappear completely. I don't know if you can see along the edge here, there was a circle in the design which I had drawn as well. I wasn't sure if I was going to stitch it, but I decided not to. But can you see there's a faint pink line? So I don't think that I will use the Frixion pen again. It could just be that it's this particular type of the Frixion pen, or if it's this color, I have no idea. I'm not going to buy dozens of pens to test it. So I think from now on I am going to stick with this type of pen, which is a water erasable pen, and they come in a medium tip and a fine tip. I like having both sizes because obviously some patterns have more fine details than others. So what do you use when you trace your patterns, or maybe when you trace lines on quilts for quilting? Have you used the Frixion pens, or do you use the water erasable pens, or maybe something else? I'd love to hear what you use. Thank you for watching and happy stitching.